Most High put together. We gon' see. In times. Serpents lurking, watchers watching, Yasharala stay on point. They lurking. We under the covenant, we ain't got no other choice. Gird your loins up, armor up, cause it's time for war. We the generation that's gon' get on one accord. Serpents lurking, watchers watching, Yasharala stay on point. We under the covenant, we ain't got no other choice. Gird your loins up, armor up, cause it's time for war.
In my humble estimation, people who are adherents of Kimoyo tend to spend way too much time debating brothers and sisters who are Christian, brothers and sisters who are Muslim, etc., more than just teaching Kimoyo, African spirituality. And so I don't want to. What happens is, I think that's you here. So I'll finish my statement though. What happens is we get preoccupied with that dynamic, and we fail to just teach, what it is that we stand on. And so the subject is always Abrahamic religions, and I'm minded about that. So I don't want. I'm not preoccupied with the need to debate brothers and sisters. Wait there, my brother. In fact, go ahead and share your welcome first and foremost. Welcome, and thank you for clicking the link. Go ahead and share your perspective.
Hey, Shalom, King. I appreciate you being willing just to dialogue. I'm not here to debate. I'm not here to force any kind of religion. I'm all about my people. I love black people. I know our experience, whether what we decide to affiliate ourselves with spiritually, our experience is very similar. And it's something that we need to come together to address, because one man can't do it on himself. You know what I'm saying? Praise the Most High. I just want to ask you real quick, am I coming through clear enough?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, you're coming through very clear, King. Go ahead.
All right. All praise to the Most High. By the way, brother, are you located in Manchester?
No, I'm in London.
Why you sound like you're from Manchester, man?
You know what? I've never heard that before, so I don't know why that is. But yeah, that's a new one to me, Rasta.
All right, man. I don't know, man. Yeah, man. But anyway, right, cool. Yeah, man. Big up yourself. But so yeah, just when it comes to this perspective, anyway, that with the Israelites, right? How I found myself identifying with this is, you know, as a black man, I feel like there's something in some of our spirits, maybe not all of us, but growing up, you realize there's something more to being black. There's something special they're not telling us. I go to school, they tell me about Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, nothing really deep, teach me about slavery, but I know our people are greater than this. So as I was getting on years, I looked into hidden colors. I started to learn about Egypt, Kemet. I started to learn about Ghana Empire, you know, Mali Empire, you know what I'm saying, Benin Kingdom, all of these things, the Dahomey. And I'm like, there's a whole leap to these things that I've never been taught, man. And then what I came across as well, praise the Most High, trying to understand, okay, if we've had all this great established civilization, if our people have been doing well, and if we have contributed so much to civilization, then how have we got this disconnect to the situation I see myself in right now, and I can see my people living in? So I want to get some kind of reconciliation to why the greatest people have fallen so far. And when I come back to the Bible, this lens of is there blackness to the Bible, I understood that, well, in the book of Exodus, Moses is mistaken for an Egyptian. The Bible even tells you the Egyptians were black because their brothers to Cush. Cush was a mighty kingdom of black people, people of the burnt face. Okay, so which something that they were called by anyway. I don't know if that's something that you might not like. You get me? Because when I said the people of the burnt face, you look like I said a slur. So no offense.
No, I don't have a problem with that term at all. Yeah, so go ahead.
Praise the Most High. So I'm just showing the breadcrumbs. So when I learned that, you know, Moses was mistaken for an Egyptian, meaning he was a black man, and that when he delivered the Israelites out of Egypt, you know, he gave them a prophecy in the book of Deuteronomy 28, and he told the Israelites that God has told you, you're in contract with him. If you keep his commandments, he will bless your people. You'll be a perpetually great people. But if you break his commandments, in Deuteronomy 28, he said there was going to be a prophetic marker on the nation. And he said they'll be sent into slavery on slave ships in Deuteronomy 28 and 68. He said that they will be scattered among all people in verse 64, and they would go into many different spiritual systems. In any land that they've gone to, they will follow a different spiritual system. And he says that their lives will hang in doubt in day and night in verse 65. He said, your children will be taken from you by another nation. He said, you'll have chains of iron put on your neck in verse 48, and you'll become servants to foreign nations for all of your needs, wants, and desires. And they were the ones that they control the systems of education. They'll have all the power. We'll have none of it. And, you know, the scripture was kind of giving me that missing gap. 'Cause when I see black greatness, I'm like, well, why do we not see that today? How did we fall? You know what I'm saying? So it gave me something that was tangible. It gave me something that I could understand that, okay, this makes sense, you know, that this was prophecy. And then the uplifting of it as well was God said, look, he loves our people. His relationship with us is that he chose us to be his children. He's only disciplining us for a time. And once we come back to his commandments, then he will rise us and restore us to the position of rulership of the world, where we can teach the rest of the world how to live righteously, because we are naturally the teachers of the world, you know, black melanated people. Because even when it comes to, like, for example, I won't say I'm an Egyptian or from Kemet, but the people of Kemet, they were a melanated people. And Kemet, those black people taught the Greeks their civilization. They taught the Romans their civilization. And now look at, you know, what that's done to America, England, the Hebrews. Our spiritual system has had a massive implications on the rest of the world. So when the Most High restores us, then finally we will shine and we'll help elevate the world to living righteously. So this is how I affiliate myself with this spiritual paradigm. This is how it's, you know, my journey in life has brought me to this place where I'm at. And it makes the most tangible sense because it gives me a literal guideline to live by, and I can see can benefit my people, which is known as the Torah, which the Son of God, who I call Yeshua HaMashiach, you know, he came to teach us, you know, we must love one another. We must marry our own women, the Bible tells us. You know, all of these things, it says we can't be tail bearing, can't be chatting behind each other's back. We can't hold a grudge in our heart for our brothers, because enough times we're bad mind, like my people are Jamaican and we have the term like this one's bad mind, that one's bad mind, can't support each other's business. But when we actually follow this standard, because one thing that I notice that black people need is when we have a zeal for our people, we need a code of conduct to kind of have a way that we can actually implement that in our real life, our code of conduct, so we can clearly know what we can do, what we can't do, what's for the benefit of our people, what's for the detriment of our people. And I can understand the Bible from this perspective, completely divorced from the Christian paradigm, even though someone like yourself, I'm sure you can still see certain Christianisms and things like this, because there's always going to be, because we're drawing from the same text, you know what I'm saying? But the application is and the mentality that is bred by it is fundamentally completely different, and it's so much more positive. Because from this, I'm married to a beautiful Eve queen. You know what I'm saying? Praise the Most High, and it's bore so much good fruit in my life and in the people that I've managed to touch by this, and it's something that can be clearly interpreted and understood. You know, this message to get behind. But yeah, thanks for letting me speak so long, brother. But yeah, I respect what you're doing, and I'll put my mute on. Yeah, bless, man.
Yes, King. And much appreciation, you know what I'm saying? And like I said before, I just want to appreciate the spirit, that you're entering this conversation with, knowing that we have some disagreements, and so I'm a man who likes to reason in good spirit, even if I disagree. And so I just want to thank you for allowing that to happen based upon the spirit that you bring to the space. Much appreciated. My basic response to what you said is that I'm familiar with some of it. You know, I'm not an expert in a lot of these like the Bible, so to speak, but I do know it you know, here and there. I'm familiar with the argument about Deuteronomy and the extent to which it explains our experience as African people. I'm even sympathetic to the need or the want or the desire for an explanation, and wouldn't wish to take your personal journey away from you in terms of the impact that you testify it has had on your life, and the positive way in which you live your life as a result. The issue for somebody coming from my perspective is the idea, as you said, that Deuteronomy says that these people are going to be amongst other people and they're going to take on their spiritual systems. And so the issue that we have there is the fact that now we're doing exactly what was said a minute ago, that we're now viewing the indigenous spiritual systems of our people through the Abrahamic lens. So it's something now other, than what we were practicing before, supposedly. And not only is that the case, but within the analysis is, in my humble estimation, a negative judgment upon the indigenous spiritual systems, of the Yoruba and the Ashanti and the Fon and the so on. And we have terms that have come through the ages, like idolatry and those kinds of things, which are synonymous with that lens, for viewing spiritual propriety, so to speak. All right. And so I am saying that I reject that characterization. I reject the idea that in order to be, I think use the word special, in your, that one has to be a descendant of Abraham. I am special as a descendant of Odudua. I am special as a descendant of Osei Tutu and Akomfo Noche. I am special as a descendant of Umbuyane, right? I'm really special as a descendant of Mumbi and Kikuyu, and I don't need no added speciality, right? You know what I'm saying? Good for better or for worse, I am special, right? I don't need to align myself with Abraham in order to be special. And the other side to it is that a lot of what we have been taught about our indigenous spiritual systems as a result is fundamentally false. So we don't actually know, who or what Shango is, who or what Nzambe is, if that makes sense. And I think that whether we ultimately agree or disagree, and when I say this, I don't mean you specifically, I mean us as a people on the religious level. One of the things that we have to do is raise people's awareness of what our indigenous spiritual systems are. And I will say that this is a broader topic, but I will say this finally. One of the issues that I don't know, it sounds to me like you're a messianic Hebrew, as in a Hebrew that deals with Yeshua,
the Messiah. Amen.
The Messiah, which is, I must say, which is quite.
Let me add the Black Messiah. Let's not get mistaken.
I understand. But I'm in my experience with people who deal with Hebrew or Judaic, let's say, faiths, that Black expression of messianic Hebrew is more prevalent among the Black Hebrews than it is among other people who claim to be Jews or Hebrews, right? You know what I'm saying? It's a very interesting dynamic, That, and to clarify that for people that may not understand,
there's a whole history behind that thing.
I'm aware. Wentworth and so on and so forth. I get it. But to explain, for those who may not understand what I'm talking about, traditionally, those who are dealing with so-called Judaism do not consider Jesus to be the Messiah. They don't recognize Jesus Christ. For most people that claim to be the people of Abraham, they don't claim, and following the religion of Abraham prior to Christianity, they don't claim a Messiah, that the Messiah has come. They're still waiting for the Messiah to come. Whereas among Blacks who adopt or affirm a Hebrew identity, it seems to be the dominant thing to affirm the Messiah, as in Yeshua, known as Christ. Okay, which is interesting to me. However, one of the factors that is, and like I said, I don't know which particular organization grouping that you may be a part of, or even if you are a part of one, but one of the dominant things that I experience among most, not all, of the Hebrew Israelite organizations is a virulent anti-Africanness. And a hostility towards African culture and the people of the African continent that I find very problematic. Again, I hasten to add, this is not something that exists among all, but definitely at this point, I can say it's the majority, even though some of them are rejigging the doctrine somewhat nowadays to again claim, say for example, that the Ashanti are in fact indigenous Hebrews, or the Igbo are in fact indigenous Hebrews, and so on and so forth. So yeah, all those things are things that I have challenges with. You know what I mean?
Can I just respond to that, King?
Yes, sir.
Praise Jah. So yeah, no, you're very right. There is a lot of anti-African sentiment amongst many established Hebrew organizations. Anti-African sentiment, which in any logical thinking, child of the diaspora or African, it's very foolish to have an anti-African sentiment, considering we're all taken from the same continent. You know what I'm saying, my brother? But we are always going to have different nuanced perspectives, because this is just how we are as people. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get some Hebrews that have that kind of colonial way of looking at the Africans as being something that is just completely wicked, that you want to divorce yourself from. Then we have, the other Hebrews that are more critical thinkers, and the Bible tells us in the book of Job 8:8, you need to search your fathers, you need to search your history. And when you have an understanding, then you can speak without the ignorance. With the knowledge, you can speak with the wisdom. The Bible says, the most important thing is wisdom, and with all you're getting, get understanding. Proverbs 4:4. So, from a paradigm of a lot of Israelites, right? And it's not just a modern thing. Like you're saying, a lot of Israelites are rejigging their doctrine. Some of the more anti-African ones are rejigging it these days. But there's some of them that have been standing 10 toes on the tribes of the Igbo, of the Yoruba, of the Ewe, you name it, the Bantu tribes. You know what I'm saying? That we are the Israelites, even amongst Cushite people. There's Israelites there. The Bible prophesied the Most High was going to even scatter us into Cush. So, the Israelites, with this paradigm of thought, we actually explore the cultures of these ancient great African peoples, and we look at their cultures and their customs, and what we can identify is many Hebrew, observations, religious worship, circumcision, even the way they celebrate their certain appointed times of feast days correlating to the Bible. Now, everything may not be identical, because Africa's got a massive history of, cultural imperialism coming in from the Arabs when they conquer and they force their language and their customs on the people. And there's been a whole lot of mashup of different people, mixing up the people. So you can't always clearly establish, what was their original way of doing things? Because I can see the different influences. But when we scrutinize the language amongst the Ewe people, right? And even people speaking the Swahili tongue, what we see is there's Hebrew words in these languages, man. And there's also many Hebrew customs amongst the people. And I'm not the biggest scholar in this area, but there's many Israelites that have the information here. And one thing that I'll just say to speak to that is that we can see that the Hebrew customs of the peoples of these different tribes is not a result of somebody bringing it as a foreign influence. And the funny thing is about it as well, the consistent thing that we see across the board in many of these African tribes is these Hebrew customs, showing that one thing that unites Africa is Hebrewisms, Israelite worship that wasn't given by a foreign component. And our whole doctrine is just that, we started in the land of in Egypt, we were taken to the land of Canaan, and over many years of conquest by the Assyrians, the Babylonians, and the Romans, we kept doing migrations into Africa because we were most familiar with Africa. We became a nation in Africa. And if that narrative was true, then you'd want to see a people that, okay, they're in Africa, they're in different regions of Africa. Do they have any Hebrew traces in their language and their culture that would attest to a time when they all lived together in the land of the Hebrews? And what we see is that we're not rejecting African people, because we can see, look, we can see your Hebrews, because whether it's West Africa to South Africa, we can see the cultural synergy, should I say. And we'd have to only be able to explain that as these people must have been living together at one point. And if they were living together at one point, where were they living together? Where were they living together? But yeah, go ahead.
Right. So I understand what it is that you're saying. Yeah. I think we I think I would first need to acknowledge that some of what you are saying is true, in the sense of the impact of Islamic cultural infusion for by whatever means into a lot of our nations has created certain changes. I think, though, that one would also have to address the fact that some of those changes, because of the fact that Islam is coming from the same tradition, Abrahamic line, yeah, would evolve a culture that would actually more resemble, yes, the biblical tradition, because of the fact that y'all are all dealing with the same prophets. Whatever disagreements you have among you, yeah, like no Muslim is going to deny Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. You know what I'm saying? And even Yeshua. Go ahead.
Slide in there real quick. The funny thing is, in name, they would say they agree to the same prophets. But when I start talking about Abraham of the Bible, they say that's not Abraham. They have Ibrahim. Because, for example, in the Bible, Abraham offered Isaac. Isaac was the child of promise. In the Quran, Abraham had to sacrifice Ishmael. Ishmael was the child of promise. In the Bible, Yeshua, Jesus Christ, he's the Son of God. Okay? And he was crucified. In the Quran,
all right,
he's a prophet. He wasn't crucified. So it's like we could say the Abrahamic religions have the same prophet.
Let me ask you a question here.
Yeah, go ahead.
You would say that you affirm that there are what you call Hebrewisms in many African cultures, correct?
Yeah, that's true, brother.
Right. Are there Hebrewisms in Islam?
Yes, there is as well. Yeah.
All right. But yet you reject Islam as a true reflection, and the people who presumably founded it or were there at its inception as a true reflection of the people of the book. Now, would I be correct in saying that?
That's a great, where you set that up, and a great question, a logical question, right? But the reason why I wouldn't perceive them in the same Hebraic lens, right, is because the Hebrews descend from a man called Eber, who was a forefather to Abraham. Now, the people of Islam, the Muslims, they are said to descend from the sons of Abraham, Ishmael. So obviously they're going to have Hebraic culture from Abraham, because Abraham was given circumcision, so they all like to circumcise. Abraham was a Hebrew, he spoke Hebrew. That's why Arabic is so similar to Hebrew. But now how we can distinguish the Hebrewisms of the Muslims from the true Hebrewisms from the Israelites is that the Israelite Hebrews were the only group of Hebrews that were given the Torah, the laws of God at Mount Sinai. They were the only Hebrews that were given a Levitical priesthood, like how the Ashanti have some Levitical traits in their culture. You get me? We were the only people that were given the laws that you don't just not eat pork, you don't eat the shellfish, you don't eat the crab, this, that, the other. So they've got like, what's the word, man? A primordial Hebrew kind of, familiarity from the history. But we've got the Israelite Hebrew. There's different Hebrew paradigms, and our one that we see in Africa is from the Israelite paradigm, my brother. Hopefully
I hear you. I was simply establishing the fact that having Hebrewisms even if it's the case, doesn't necessarily make one a Hebrew. Yeah. Right. So if it's the case for Islam, and the Arabic language is closely related to the languages preceding it as it relates to the tradition, all of the prophets are the same apart from 1-2 here and there, right? You know what I'm saying? If that can be the case for that tradition, then it certainly can be the case for indigenous African cultures where you find what people claim to be Hebrewisms. When I've looked into these things, though, what I'm seeing is, so for example, you say circumcision. Circumcision existed in the Nile Valley in ancient Kemet long before there was a group of people identifiable as Hebrews. Yeah. And so the idea of a culture having circumcision is not evidence of it having derived or been originally a Hebrew culture. Yeah. And I find that those are the kinds of things that take place with this argument. It's you find some correlation, and that correlation is used to suggest that one derived from the other, and I think that's problematic. I see, Hannah. I'm gonna come back to you, because there are some I've come across, and this is not an area that I've studied, so I'm not affirming this, yeah. But I have come across scholars who speak about Africanisms in Hebrew culture and in Hebrew language, right? So not that we did get it from the Hebrew there, but the Hebrew then we get it from we, yeah, in that regard, right? So, but remember now that the culture and the language that we're talking about even precede Kemet. We're talking about cultures that precede Kemet, yeah, as a formation, as a people, as languages, even, and so on and so forth. And so I think that I don't know how well you have studied, say, for example, the work of Sheikh Anta Diop, yeah, the ancestor now scholar from Senegal, but he speaks about the cultural unity of Black Africa, and you find similarities and similar essences and what he calls similar adaptations, yeah, to the environment across African cultures, not necessarily because it started here and this one African culture gave it to the next African culture. Sometimes that takes place, but more because there's a shared essence as a result of various different similar conditions to how our cultures have developed. So we don't have to have got it from there's a, because of the role that the Christianity has played in the Western world, history up until very recently has been bibliocentric. It's been centered in the Bible. And so there's a lot of history that is not considered because it doesn't match with what it says in the Bible, so to speak. So I tend not to be bibliocentric in my study of history. I don't know if half of these characters even existed. So yeah.
I hear you, King, right? And I can see a justification for your paradigm and your perspective because, of course, if those in power subscribe to a certain paradigm, they're going to try and, suppress any other explanation for the phenomenon we see in the world, the cultures, the practices. They're going to try and attribute it all to themselves. You know what I'm saying, my brother? But when it comes to, let's just deal with the Hebrewisms, right? Again, just to be clear, right? The reason why, what we can perceive in the African continent amongst the people of the various tribes, why we can see that is, irrefutably evidence that these people are the true Israelites is because, for example, in the book of Romans 3 and 4, like this is how we deal, like we prove what we say with the Bible. I ain't going to read the scripture, I'm just going to loosely quote it. So it tells us that we must speak as it is written, that we may be justified in what we say. The scripture says, let God be true and every man a liar. So if the Bible is really the word of God, then we must trust its testimony. And what the Bible testifies about the Israelites is they've got a very deliberate pattern of worship. That's why they're known as the holy people. Holy means to be separate. So it's supposed to be something completely unique to anyone else. Now, yes, circumcision predated the Israelites. The Israelites were not the people that invented circumcision. But to have a culture that circumcises on the 8th day, this was an Israelite custom. Yeah? So it's these nuances that we see. So if we see a culture circumcising on the 8th day, right? If it was just that one thing, we might be like, whoa, that's interesting. That's kind of Hebrew. But they only got that one thing. So that might have slipped in there somehow. People travel and stuff like that. But if we see the circumcision on the 8th day, we see amongst the ancestors of the Ashanti people that there's a tradition that they know that they wear like an ephod, which ephod is the priestly garment that the priest would wear in the book of Exodus.
Yeah, I've heard it.
And it's got 12 precious gems to represent each tribe of the Israelite people. So my brother, sorry,
on that point, I don't want to interrupt you, but you see, on that point, I've only ever seen a picture of what you're referring to, like as in a drawing of it. I've never actually seen it. Yeah, that 12 jewels thing, I've never actually seen it. And I've been to Ghana among Ashanti people. Yeah. I'm not saying I've spent extensive time among Ashanti people. I'm saying I've been there and I've searched it and I've asked, like, I know people that deal with indigenous Ashanti spirituality, and they don't know what this thing is referring to. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that to show you. I'm saying I've actually researched that one and I can't find it. Yeah. Apart from one picture that I've seen replicated in every article that makes this claim. So it's things like that I'm referring to. Just what I'm saying. And then if we're gonna deal with that, then there's a whole lineage. Like, put it this way, that line of argument, based upon what I do know of the Ashanti history, yeah, that line of argument would lead one to disregard a whole history, yeah, a whole narrative, the tales and the stories that are indigenous to the culture.
Can I push back on that? It's not about disregarding the culture, my brother. And that's the false paradigm that many of us have been given in this Eurocentric gaze of the bibliocentric narrative. We don't disregard the cultures and the different traditions that we see Israelite people demonstrating, because the Israelites adopting the cultures and the religious worship of the other nations that surround them in exile and embracing it as their own is something that is kind of native to Israelite culture and identity. Because in the Bible, as a black man growing up from the Caribbean, as I can tell from your tone, right? You know that one thing that
actually, sorry, I was born and raised in the UK. We just have good parents who teach me speak my language. You know what I mean? So I just say,
praise the Most High, man. Yeah, same way though, man. Yeah, man. Praise the Most High. But we know about people saying, yeah, black people are stiff necked and stubborn. You know, we don't listen. We're gonna do things our own way. And this is the way of the Israelites. The Most High would always say the Israelites are a stiff-necked and stubborn people, because the Most High was demanding exclusive worship to Him. He wants you to only partake in His customs and His ceremonies. But the Israelites were always looking over there and adopting all the different pantheons and other people, adopting their cultures and becoming very, very well acquainted with it. Just the same way black people today can fully embrace our next man's culture. They can speak the full Arabic, read the Quran, recite it like he's an Arab. He can go into Buddhism, you go into Hinduism. He's very versatile, and next thing you know, you think he's always been doing this, and his children think he's always been doing this. So when we look at these great empires of the Israelites, from my perspective, in Africa, the reason why we see them practicing and, you know, all of these different beliefs and having all of these different histories of their worship and the different sky gods that they serve, and whichever kind of gods they may inquire at, is just simply because, you know, this was their nature to adopt customs of the people they live amongst, and, you know, throughout their generations perpetually, it becomes something that's established and ingrained in the people, to the point where you think if you divorce the people from this, then you're taking away their identity. But the reality is, when they were in Sinai, the Most High took the Israelites not just out of the physical land of Egypt, He was trying to take them out of the spiritual systems of Egypt, which they had subscribed to. That's the reason why the first thing they did is they started to make a cow again, to worship the cow. And you know which cow God is in Egypt, you know what I'm saying? Because this was the way of the people to always turn back to the different gods which they wanted to serve. So that's just a paradigm there, brother. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, and this is where we're gonna have the essential disagreement here, with all due respect, because you're kind of making my point, right? In the sense of the fact that whereas the narrative is that we took on the cultures of these people. If we accept the claim that we are Hebrews, we took on these other cultures, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the narrative is that what we have experienced as a people is the result of our disobedience, in relation to Yahweh, right? And a reflection of that disobedience is the taking on of these other cultures that you're speaking of. So which would suggest now, if I embrace Abraham, yes, and I embrace Isaac, and I embrace Jacob, if I embrace them, I have to do away with Odudua, right? You know what I'm saying? And Orunmila, and all of these things. I like want the two of these things can't exist in this.
Let me jump in and jump out real quick, like double dutch. Check it.
Yeah.
It's like the Messiah. His wisdom was profound, right? It changed the world, whether you believe in him or not. His wisdom has been perpetuated throughout all society. And check this out, right? He said, the kingdom of God, the knowledge of his doctrine, is like a man that had a bunch of treasures. And when he found one precious pearl that he seen exceeded all of the wealth he already had and he already invested in, he sold everything he had just so that he could purchase this one pearl. You understand?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that my pearl is in Oshun and Shango. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And Sakpata, and in Zambi and Mogai, and because I'm saying that, look, when I delve, I've been an African spiritualist, I would say, from birth, but then when I delve, as in my own agency and initiative, into studying our indigenous spiritual systems. Pure gems and pearls me find. And we have been deterred from an appreciation of those gems and pearls, yeah, because we believe that those gems and pearls are somehow demonic or lesser than, because no book that we've been given taught us that the Yoruba are the chosen people, or the Bakonga are the chosen people, or the Nuer are the chosen people, or the Dinka are the chosen people. And you know the funny thing about that is, yeah, that the word, oh gosh, the term is slipping me, you know. The term is slipping me. But the word for human beings, yeah, it will come back to me in a second, you know. The word for human beings in the Yoruba language, yeah, exhorts who we are as a people, as human beings, as a special manifestation of nature. And sometimes it is translated as chosen, the chosen ones. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have to step out of that paradigm to be chosen higher.
But you know why? You know why, King? Because you don't took it with you. Because you know that's one of them Hebrewisms I was telling you about. One of them Hebrewisms, King. You get me? You still know you're chosen, man. Praise ya. You know, they try to whitewash that out of you, man. But you still know it, man. And a lot of the cultures will still attest to that, brother. Because, for example, I believe the Igbo, they believe that they are the chosen ones. I forget the name of their god in the sky, but they believe that the chosen ones, and I believe the Yoruba have a similar tradition. And we see these things there of their people being the chosen people, right? And all I'm saying is when we put everything in the balance, it leans on the side of these people who are Hebrews. Now, some of the evidence is because we've been so washed over with different people's cultures. A lot of the evidence, so not a lot of them, but some of them maybe a bit less tangible. Like, for example, that picture of the ephod. Like, I think I've probably seen the same picture as you. Maybe that's not the one with the most weight behind it, okay?
Right.
But when we take everything else into consideration, it paints a complete picture. One piece of the jigsaw may give you a vague picture. When you get all the pieces of the jigsaw, you're like, I can believe in this picture more now. And one thing I'll say, my brother, right? The reason why, because it's a massive awakening going on. Like someone like yourself that I would assume loves black people, right? Is aware of what's going on with your people, where their heads at, where the mentality is, where we're being led spiritually right now. You must see there's enough of us professing this Hebrew thing, praise the Most High, probably even amongst your family. And then we have to question, well, where is this coming from? Where is the conviction for this new paradigm? And where we all lean on is we're trying to go with what we can prove, and how we can prove the life that we're living, is what we can attribute in the scripture. And what we look to is the Bible prophecies, brother. Like Deuteronomy 28, right? Now, you said that you were familiar with that, and I don't know how familiar you are with it, but when you look upon them prophecies, brother, slave ships, it said that you're going to be scattered throughout every single country in the world, and every country you go to, you'll be the tail and not the head. You'll be the poorest and not the richest, the borrower and not the lender. Your kids will be taken by another nation that don't speak your language. You're going to end up adopting their ways, their customs, their gods. And it says your people will become lost and oppressed. It said you'll be like a blind man groping in the dark. Now, when we look at these prophecies spoken by Moses 3,000 years ago, it paints a very clear picture, which we know is our lived reality. So when we come to the biblical spiritual system, we don't just lean upon it because it's the wisdom. We trust on it because what it's saying is true. What it's saying, we can confirm, because like the Bible say in Isaiah 43:11, when God speaks to the Israelites, he says, you are my witnesses. Out of every nation of the world, the Israelite people are the people that bear witness of the Most High God of the Hebrews. And it's not a voluntarily bearing witness. It's just because our lives are the most orchestrated by him, because he's literally told us the lives we will have to live if we disobey him, the lives we will get to live if we obey him. And according to the biblical paradigm, we disobeyed him, and that's the reason why he said, the nations that hate you will rule over you. Leviticus 26:17. Everything that we can see in the so-called black perspective, the black experience in this world today, the Bible gives a direct answer for it way before it even happened. And this is why we have such conviction, because of course you can always try and explain things. If I say something to you, be like, yeah, but what about this? You could see it this way, but what about this king? Why are you disregarding that? But when the Bible gives all of its evidence to support its paradigm, from what I can see, there's the most evidence on this side as this being the truth. Because the last thing I'll say, brother, is do you believe there can be objective truth in the world when it comes to like spirituality, because many people have different spirituality. You got the Mormons, you got the Muslims, you got the people that maybe worship consumerism or whatever it is. But do you believe there's a true spirituality which is the most conducive for your spiritual betterment, or it's just a truth, innit? Like where we came from, who created us, how we're supposed to live. Do you think there's a truth, or do you think it's like a subjective thing?
I think that it's a bit of both. I think that all spiritual systems are the deification of the culture of the people. My ultimate standard is not the form or the teachings necessarily of the spiritual system itself. My ultimate standard is nature, yeah, and what we are taught by nature, and the extent to which the spiritual system is in line with and adherent to and an expression of the forces and laws of nature. So I believe if there's any universal truth, yeah, it lies in nature itself, and all of our expressions are our attempt, yeah, to come to terms with, to understand, to express our understanding of those laws, if our spiritual systems are indeed nature based. Now there are some spiritual systems that are not in fact nature based, yeah, they're doctrinal in that respect, so that wouldn't necessarily abide by the same standard. But I hope I've answered your question in a roundabout way. You're on mute, my brother.
Thanks for that, brother. That's a great answer, and I would agree, man. Nature does give us an objective standard to go off, right? Because we can see it works as a harmonic system, right? There can be the grass is the grass, the sky is up, the ground is down. We stand on the ground, we don't fly through the sky. You know what I'm saying? And it shows us there's an objective level of truth that the sun will be up tomorrow and the moon will be, you know what I'm saying, my brother? It's a system. And we can see from that there is a standard of objective truth. And we see it works like clockwork, which shows the handiwork of a spiritual power behind it, or whether you see it as spiritual powers. But when it comes to, where was I going with this now? I've got the thought, man. But so what I was gonna say is this thing, right? So just the way that nature is objective in its nature, we can't redefine and say, oh well, I interpret nature this way and I interpret nature that way. Nature is just what it is, okay? Do you not believe the spiritual truth could also be equally as objective? And I'll just say this as well. And the Bible, here's what I was going to say, is a standard of nature as well. It does include nature in the worship. For example, in Genesis, the Most High said He gives us lights in the firmament of heaven to be signs on the earth. So the moon is a sign. The moon, every time we see a full moon, that means it's a new month. We celebrate the new month. We have a convocation together. We have a drink. We have a eat. You know, the Bible tells us that when the sun rises, the day begins, because the sun is the ruler of the day. And for example, all of our feast days are all based upon harvest season. For example, we have the Passover in the month Abib. Abib in Hebrew means green corn, green wheat. So when the wheat turns green, we have this Passover and this memorial of the events of Passover. We have the Feast of First Fruits. When the Most High gives us the first crops of the land, we pick up the crops and we dance and we celebrate because we got food now. You know what I'm saying? And we see this across many of our, African cultures, where we have a very harvest-based, nature-based celebration of spirituality, because this is what we need to survive. So if there is a God, He's providing our sustenance. And the Bible also incorporates this paradigm of thought, my brother. And just going back to the objectivity of nature, do you believe there could be an objectivity of God? Or do you believe all spiritual paths can lead to the same direction? Like what is your belief on that?
I don't know about all, but I certainly do affirm that a number of different ones can lead to, if not the same, but similar places. And that's because I understand the relationship between culture and spirituality. So like if we take the Judaic, the Abrahamic, line, for example, what we really see, is the documentation, if we take it on face value, of the relationship between one particular family, the ancestral line of one particular family, and their relationship with a divinity or a deity that they refer to as Yahweh. Yeah, that's what we're looking at there. Oh, I was gonna, somebody was coming through to speak, and I've taken a while. So Nafka. Can't remember where it got. Feel free to jump back on, my brother or my sister. I was about to come to you just now. Yeah, we're looking at the narrative of one ancestral line, yeah, with Yahweh. What them call Yahweh. Yeah. So, and their relationship, their negotiations, their trials, their tribulations. Okay. And to a significant degree, the book is not making any pretense about whether it's talking to you, yeah, as somebody who's not of that family, right? It's really about that family and their relationship with that divinity. So I'm saying now, when we do that now, we're not simply I'm not even negating the worth of that. Yeah, the preservation of the historical narrative of a people is an essential component to a culture, and so on.
Black people.
Yeah, I would agree. The issue that I have is that we are now defining ourselves according to that narrative, yes, as if it's our own. And I know you believe it is our own. I'm challenging that belief. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying that no, if we are truly gonna follow the example of Moses and Isaac and Abraham and Jacob, we're supposed to delve deep in our ancestral line. Yeah, I know, say we are the children, yeah, you know what I'm saying, of Ose Tutu and a come for noche, yeah, and all these things. You know what I mean? So I'm saying the value of our own history is no. Yeah, I can hear. Sorry, I can hear you, my brother. Sorry, you're not on screen at the moment, but I can hear you. So greetings, Nakfa. Nakfa, can you hear me? You were just speaking a minute ago. Oh, now you're on mute. Okay, sorry. Let me just finish up what I was saying to our brother Yahuda, and I'll come to you, Nakfa. Yeah.
Can I be heard? Yeah. Hello. Yeah, I can hear.
Yes, I can hear you, but there seems to be a delay. There seems to be a delay. You seem to have some delayment, Agwan. All right. So yeah. So this is the point I'm trying to make here. So I'm my mission, my vocation, yes, is as much as people have deified and exalted.
Uno family.
Yeah, I was gonna say the line of Abraham and the line of Jacob. I am affirming, yes, that our ancestors, recognizable within the narratives of our indigenous peoples, are just as worthy of veneration and even more worthy of veneration in relation to us. That me I deal with. You know it. And unfortunately, unfortunately, we live in a current context in which the exaltation and the valorization of the line of Abraham has directly negatively impacted upon our knowledge and our information about the history that I am referring to at the moment, and that is the issue that we have. My brother, let me pause you for a second, because this brother has been waiting for a while. Yeah, so I don't want to, you know, but yeah, go ahead, Nakfa. Nakfa. Every time we talk to Nakfa, we can't hear, man. When we attack him, talk. It's what go on. It's what go on. Nakfa,
I'm gonna wrap it up real quick, King.
Go ahead, wrap it up, King. Wrap it up.
Praise God, thank you. So I understand what you're saying about just being one family, right? But the biblical narrative is right. The Most High is not going to only deal with the Israelites. He's using the Israelites to touch everybody else. He used one people as the most influential to reach everybody else, because when he made a covenant with our people, he said in Exodus 19 that we are his royal priesthood. The priests are the ones that mediate between the Most High and everybody else. When you in any spiritual system, you can't just get to the highest or you can't just inquire at the highest. You have to go to someone that's in touch, someone that dedicates their life to be in a relationship while you live your regular life. This is the one that will show you the way, right? So we are meant to be the Most High's royal people, ruling the earth righteously, teaching other people. So he took us, and we were given the VIP first class ticket to learn about him, and then and everyone else, once we're on point, once we've been taught, now we can teach the rest of the world and bring them up to our level of serving the Most High. Well, not to the same level, because it's going to be a hierarchy, a rulership, but a righteously God-led one, and we say Yahuwah. And you said a whole leap, brother, so I can't remember it all, but that's all I was saying, whether you subscribe to the paradigm or not. And actually, here's the last thing as well, right? Yeah. Now, there are pearls in many African cultures, right? And from the biblical paradigm, what we understand is there was a time when angels came down from heaven and they procreated with women. And in many different cultures, there's this idea of these sky beings coming down and giving man knowledge from the heavens, right? So this is why we think many ancient civilizations like Egypt, Babylon, many kingdoms were so great. They had such great knowledge that we can't deny civilization, because these rebellious angels came down. They indulged with human women, and they were revered and worshipped as gods. And that worship perpetuates to this day in many cultures, just under different names and monikers, because people were scattered at Babylon. But the Most High, out of all these nations that had adopted the gods of the fallen gods to worship, the angels, there was one nation that God was trying to lead out of that first, before this nation could bring everyone else out of worshiping the angels and bring them back to worshiping Yahuwah, Elohim of the Israelites. But I appreciate you, King, man. I've been hugging up your show, but I've loved the dialogue every single moment of it, man. God, brother, I'm a dip, man.
We disagree, but I love your spirit, yeah. And so thank you again for the spirit that you've come through and for the humility.
You can hear me? I can't hear you guys.
Okay.
Oh, this is crazy.
Right? Can you hear him, Yahuda?
It's a very unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
I can hear him, but I think there's something wrong on his.
I checked my audio. Everything is good to go.
Yeah, we can hear you, my brother, but you can't seem to hear us. So you might need to go out and come back in. Well, you can't hear me, so it doesn't make sense me telling you that. I'm gonna try and message the brother privately. But yeah, my brother, as I was saying, so I appreciate that. Last year, I was intending to host a panel of Pan-African elders from different religious traditions. And I say elders because I wanted a certain experience in the conversation about how different faiths approach and or collaborate with each other in the community, working on behalf of our people. And within that, there would be some room for religious debate. I do intend to host that panel this year. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. And like I said, my focus is more on teaching African spirituality. At the same time, as I said, it's impossible to do it without undoing certain things, and that requires some discussion. Yeah, so definitely there will be some discussions, and so we'll stay tuned. And in fact, if you check out our website, kimbongamedia.com, do leave like a contact so we can let you know, and we can invite you, or you can invite those who you work with to some of those conversations when we have them. Aurora?
Yeah, I appreciate that, King, man. I'll try and keep I got a notification bell on, so when that comes up, she'll be able to see it. And as well, I've got a YouTube channel, so if you want to stay in touch or even see any of the information that I present, it's Hebrew Elevation Church. Right. And we're bringing out all this information of the different Hebrewisms of African tribes, right? It's not that I'm a scholar on it, but the brethren in our community that have all this knowledge about the African kingdoms and the Hebrew customs, I'm doing like a montage of their videos. So like a montage of the Igbo customs, montage of the Ewe customs from all of our elders. So then you can scrutinize and think, okay, I know about these people, I've heard about these customs, but I've seen it from a different lens. But it's always good, even if you don't agree with something, just to be aware of something. You know what I'm saying? Because we can all grow, we can all learn. So absolutely, yeah, man, God bless. And
I will subscribe to your channel this evening. All right. Thank you very much.
Come on, God bless.
Much appreciated. All right, King. Family, we're having some interesting conversations here, here, what I'm saying? So like I said, the brother, he came through with a beautiful spirit, and we can always receive that, brothers and sisters, even where our disagreements lie. So we give thanks for that. Nakfa, I have problems now. I'm not mad at the brother because I've had my problems with with EVMux, which is the platform that we're using to stream at the moment. Partly because StreamYard Rabway, you know what I mean? So I saw the thing go. And until we develop our own things, then that is the nature of this game as it stands at the moment. Nakfa did leave a message though in the
he gon' send his hand. Destruction gotta come, that's how he get us out this lane. The devil working hard, trying to get us out his plane. His sheep hear his voice, so he can't get us out his hand. We gon' trust the son of man, blow your wings, Father. Your kingdom coming, we just trying to make it in, Father. Rather we